Welcome back to Web Squadron. Hey, how you doing? A question was asked about gradient backgrounds for buttons, and that's generally quite easy, but the question then went on to animated gradient backgrounds, and I'm going to show you a really cool, simple way of doing it, which is totally free with no extra plugins. Bit of CSS code, but the CSS code is generated for you, so don't worry about it, okay? Now on here, before we get to that solution, I want to show you 3 ways that you could do a gradient background. Well, 2 ways of how you could do a gradient background for free using Elementor as it is at the moment. By the way, I'm Imran, Web Squadron, and I hope you like, subscribe, follow, and share, and let everybody know about how we're helping you, your clients, and your business with Elementor and WordPress. Okay, let's get on with it. So over here, we just have a standard button. You know the drill. You go over to your widgets and you drag over a button, all right? And you can rename it, put whatever wording you want in here. And just in case you're wondering why the button is so big, I have picked the extra large size because I wanted it to be coming out of the screen at you as you watch this right now. This button just has a standard color of that purpley, magenta, whatever color over there. Standard Elementor button. Nothing fancy there. The button below is a direct copy, and this time instead of picking just one color, we have now picked a gradient color. And there we go. We can change the location of that. We can make it a solid color if we wanted to. You know, I could do that, or we can blur it and we can change the angle of it and basically do whatever we want with it. Okay, again, very simple. Now, another way you could do a gradient button with Elementor is instead of doing the gradient function, you just have one color. So it's a copy of the button at the top there, one color. You then come down and you go to box shadow. We activate that, we go into the settings, and then over here you would pick your second color. And I could either have it like full on, you know, strong color, or I could have it as a slightly transparent color. For the gradient, I would say you want to go with transparent, to be honest. Okay, and then what you would then do is you just start to mess around with what is the placement. Look, you can see what's happening here as I start to move it around. You know, where is it in horizontal? Where is it in vertical? What is the blur? So look, if I do that, it becomes very solid. As I do that, it starts to blend. And the same with spread, right? So you can start to have a very unique looking gradient. But there's 2 ways to do it. Very simple, dead easy. And the last thing you need to do, though, with this method is make sure the standard for shadows is outset. The shadow is always outside of the element in a way. You want to change it to be insert, and now it's insert within the actual element. So they are 2 very basic ways. The problem with that, though, is they're not animated. They're not moving. So what if you want to transition from pink to orange back to pink? Maybe even a 3rd color or 4th color or 20 odd, maybe not 20 odd colors. But let's say, you know, you got a 4 color spectrum and you want it to blend within them. This is how you do it. Believe me, this is so simple. You're going to be like, why did I not know about this? Let's just make a duplicate of the very top button there. And I'm drop it to the bottom. We're actually going to get rid of the color for this in a moment, but I want to show you what it does. If I now go over to this website here, gradientanimator.com, it's in the description, okay? This is free by Ian Forrest. Well done, Ian, okay? This is super what you've done here. You go to the website, it's totally free, and it will have some code in here. What I found is I just got rid of the WebKit, the Gecko, and the Opera code. I just wanted it to be plain like that. At the moment, there is nothing happening here, okay? You can rename this if you want. I didn't bother renaming it. I just left it as AnimationName. The key thing is to pick your colors. Let's pick color 1. I'm just going to go for, let's just go for this color here. It's not exactly the same as what I had because I'm just showing you how this works. So we're going to select that and I'm going to add in another color and we'll go for a similar bright orangey color like something like that. There we go. Okay. I'm going to select that. So I've now got 2 colors. I've got my pink and I've got my orange. Okay. Now, if I hit preview, there we go. We have pink to orange. And if you stare at the screen long enough, you will see the pink becoming stronger. Right, you see that? And eventually it's going to blend into the orange. Now, I found that messing around with the speed on here, if I push this all the way over here, it's a bit of a weird one because I found that by sticking it in the middle worked better. I quite understand why, but I found that if I stick it over here, it was a bit more gradual. If I stuck it over there, it's meant to be quicker, I didn't actually find it to be that much quicker. So I have just found, for my purposes, leave it in the middle. But what you're going to get is you're going to start to get a blend. Now, just to make this really dramatic, I'm going to add in another color. So I'm now going to go for like a blue color. We're going to select that. And I'm going to add in another color. And this time I'm going to go for a really strong purple color like that. So we're going to have like this eventual, let's just make this one a bit less, a bit more yellowy. There we go, like that. There. So what we've now got is pink to orange to blue to purple. Don't worry about the colors I'm picking here. And if I preview it, what you're going to see on the screen, we're going to have this color change. Okay, right? You can also change the angle. So at the moment, it's like it's moving that way, and you can almost see the faded line across the screen as it's going. If I change this angle to be like so, you can now see there's a little bit of a gradient, or not a gradient, the angle. There's a bit of an angle. Right, let's now get this to work in our Elementor. What you do is you copy the code. Okay, now notice it's got css-selector at the top there. You copy the code. If you have Elementor Pro, you can go in here, go to Advanced, go to Custom CSS and add the code in directly. I'm going to pretend you haven't got Elementor Pro, so how would you do this? Let's just click Update. What you do is go back to your theme and go back to the Customize option. Okay, so if we go back over here, you go to Appearance, you will have Customize, okay? You click into Customize and you should have an option for additional CSS. If your theme does not give you additional CSS, you need to get rid of that theme. I use hello for everything, right? So we go to additional CSS and I am now going to drop this down here. Now, even though I've dropped it, it is not going to do anything to my buttons. Why? Because it's called css-selector. It's going to be looking for a css-selector. So I'm going to change this and I'm going to call it make sure I get the spelling right, gradient button. I've called it gradient button. In fact, I'm just going to copy that bit of text there. I'm going to hit publish. Now, when I go back to my page, okay, it won't actually do anything, by the way, all right? Because at the moment, I haven't named the button to be gradient button. So let's just go to edit with Elementor. Here we go. So this button over here, at the moment, is not doing anything. But watch what happens when I change the class, okay? So we go to Advanced, and I go to CSS Classes, okay? By the way, it's going to do more than just change the button, but stay with me on this. I'm going to put in that. Now, when I hit Update, can you see it's actually changing the entire background, everything where that button sits? Well, that's a little bit of overkill. So let's now make it only touch the button. We go back to our style for the button. We go to the color and we make that color transparent. There we go. It is now doing the button, but that button is way too big. Again, really, really easy. You go to Advanced. You go to Positioning. And we're going to change this position to be Custom. What? Look at the button now. It is now only touching that button because we've made that element custom. You could add in other elements alongside it or beside it or whatever, and they will be whatever size you pick them to be. But for that button, we've made it custom. And if I go to the column and I say horizontal line to be center, I can now center it to be where I want. So you can play around with how you're going to place your items and things like that. Now, one limitation of this method, though, is that if you then go to, say, your button, and you start going to the borders, and you say, oh, I want to give it a rounded border, it's not going to work, because no matter what you do, it always treats it like almost like a square effect. And this is how we make the border rounded again. So I'm just going to go over to the code again. I'm just going to add in a couple of lines there, and I'm going to drop in here, border hyphen radius, 25 pixels, let's just say, right? Or whatever you decide you're going to go for. We then hit publish on that, and we go back to our page over here. You'll now see it's got the rounded border, radius, 25 pixels. And this is a really, really cool way of having an animated effect. And look, it's now an animated button. No extra plugin. The CS code was generated for you here. The only bit we've added in is the border radius just here. You could have 25 pixels, 10 pixels, whatever you want to go for. And we now have an animated gradient button for free The link for Gradient Animator is in the description. I hope you like, subscribe, follow, and share. Please let everybody know about this super cool way of adding an animated gradient button to your Elementor website. In fact, you can add it to any WordPress website. But we love Elementor. I'll see you soon.